Hello and welcome to this round table. I have the pleasure to be with these three inspiring women. Here we have Paloma Castellano from Telefonica, then Emilie Rouchon from River Rock, and we have Maëva from NRFIP. Unfortunately, Rocío had a problem, an emergency, so she can't be here today. But no matter, we will talk today about the topic of women and investment. But before letting this woman speaking, I want to set a little bit of context and give some figure. Everybody knows the Sustainable Development Goal set up by UN, and the number 5, it's the gender equality. So yes, it's a fact. It exists inequality between men and women in a lot of aspects, socially, in the family also, and everything. But today we will be focused on the inequality in the finance world, which is not an exception. To give you this figure, like 87%, this percentage, it's the men, the part of men investor in the NRFIP basis that we have. So it's huge. And I know it's not representative, but it still makes sense because according to some statistic, in 2013, the ratio of working men in the population is 72. And women, the ratio of working women is only 47. So it's unequal. And another report, which is really interesting, published in 2020, says that in 2020, only 6% of CEO in services finance company were women. So only 6%. The conclusion is clear. Women are less represented in investment and financial area. But in front of me, I have 3 women who challenge the statistic. And I want, first of all, to introduce them. So if you want, Paloma, to start to speak about your background, and to speak about your current position in Wayra, if you want to start.
Okay, so thank you very much, Lu, for counting on us for this event. This is very exciting for us. Well, I have been working in technology and innovation for my whole career. So, well, this is a male-dominated area, I would say. I have been always surrounded by men. While I was working, I started working for Microsoft, and later on I joined Terra and Telefonica. And 12 years ago, I had the biggest opportunity in my career, I would say, that was joining the founding team of Wayra. Wayra, we started as the business accelerator of Telefonica. We have evolved while helping investment ecosystems in the countries where we were operating to evolve, and we have evolved to be a corporate VC. And well, I like to think of ourselves as a catalyzer of innovation inside Telefonica. When we were born 10 years ago, well, more than 10 years ago, the competitive landscape was changing, so we were no longer competing against other telcos. We were starting to compete with people that were, with companies that were born in garages. So you cannot survive in this ecosystem being a large corporation if you do not innovate, and you do not innovate thinking of what's happening outside your organization. And that's what Wayra is. Wayra is like a hub of connection between innovators and Telefonica. We make that innovation go to our customers, and we build new businesses, and hopefully we will be in a leading position another 100 years more because we are getting 100 next year, so we hope to be in the same position thanks to innovators.
Okay, and innovation always be something that interests you in your background, in your study and everything?
Yeah, for sure. Well, my background is technology. You cannot dissociate technology from innovation, from my point of view. So I have been witness of the changes on how you create new businesses using technology. So when I started my career, the development cycles were totally different as they are today. So now, if 20 years ago, it would be like millions of euros to build something from scratch and months or years of time, now you can use cloud services and everyone can innovate. It would be it's like democratized in a sense.
Okay, thank you. Maybe Emilie, if you want to introduce yourself, tell me about your background and your actual position and your company.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, as Paloma was saying, first, thank you very much because I enjoy this type of discussion. So it's very stimulating and interesting. So I work for Riverrock. I work in the infrastructure world, meaning that we invest in infrastructure assets. Infrastructure can be very wide, but we are focused on what we call social infrastructure. So that is hospitals, schools, high schools, or administrative buildings, and transport infrastructure, such as, well, we all know the toll roads, or that can be public transport, basically. My background is, well, I worked for 10 years for a construction company in the structured finance, so I was involved in the structuring of all the projects that were being built, so being real estate or infrastructure. And I worked in France and in London, and then 5 years ago I joined Riverrock in Spain, being based in Madrid. Since then we launched a fund of 200 million. We have projects in Spain, in France, in Netherlands, in Italy, and in Portugal. And my role has been to find the opportunities, to analyze them, to execute them, and now I manage the assets. So I sit at various boards, as an example of our assets. And now we are preparing the launch of our second fund, which will have the same scope as the first one, but we have also added some new sectors, such as regulated energies, or some assets such as car parks, or well, basically assets where we would take a bit more of exposure to commercial occupation.
Okay. And I remember when I talked with you, you told me that when you entered to Bouygues, it was, as a woman, it was really inspiring because you participate to a lot of debate and you met a lot of inspiring women. If you can tell me a little bit.
So as for Paloma, it has always been for me a very male-dominated environment, which can have pros and cons. But at Bouygues, we were lucky enough to have like a supportive management with the women network being encouraged. And as part of that, we had conferences being organized and networks being organized around this development of women in male-dominated sectors, and meeting a very inspiring, like a top CEOs woman, as an example, who really, I think it's very important when you start your career to hear those experiences, because it helps you to progress in your own way.
Okay, and it's exactly what I want this roundtable make. Okay, so now Maëva, if you want to explain yourself and everything.
Thank you, Lou. It's a real pleasure to be here today. I'm an investment manager at Direction. I started my studies with a business school, and during my first year, I discovered business law. So quickly, I decided to join law school in order to get a degree in economic law, which included consumer law and competition law. At the end of my studies, I only had one goal: to join the renewable energy sector. At this time, I was living in Montpellier, in the south of France. It's a city where companies in this sector are highly represented, so it wasn't really difficult for me to approach one of them, which was La Compagnie du Vent. And in La Compagnie du Vent, a position was open at the M&A department. So even if this position wasn't 100% related to my studies, I decided to apply. And this is how I discovered the world of finance. step by step, I improved my knowledge in this world, which was completely new to me.
Okay.
And I discovered really quickly that women were underrepresented in the finance sector and in the renewable energy sector,
Also.
which is a sector where there is a lot of men.
Okay.
After 4 years at La Compagnie du Vent, now NG Green, I decided to join Enerfip
Okay.
as an acquisition and project financing manager. And now I'm an investment manager in the management company we founded, and which is called Edificio.
Okay. Thank you. So thank you to share with us your experience. And first, I wanted to know if you have any felt as woman any barrier. It could be a barrier really clear or more height, but as a woman, did you already felt this feeling like I am a woman, I can't do this, or it's more hard for me than for a man? Do you feel it? For example, you, Paloma, if you want to start.
Okay.
Or if you don't want to start, Emilie, you can start also. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
So, well, when you work in a sector where, when we are talking about venture capital, not just technology, but when I was getting my degree, we were less than 10% women in the, because I studied, I major in computer science, so we were very little women at that time, and well, I think that it is still the case. So it's only 15% of women in computer science. And well, it's different. You don't really, because you are so into the things that you don't really, you are not able to see the barriers that you are encountering while you are suffering them, I would say. When you are just, when I was studying, I was not aware of that. I had like, when I grew older and older, and you believe that you need to, when you grow older and older and you start in your career and it stays the same, I had like an epiphany moment some years ago when I was in a meeting all surrounded by men, and I was thinking, okay, I know a lot of women that are at least equal or better than those guys in this room. And we are defining the future of society because we are defining the things that we are going to invest in. We are defining how the future will shape. I believe that this is what we are doing when we are in an investment fund. And I felt very sad. I used to be, when I was younger, I used to feel very proud because I thought that being in a male-dominated environment and being able to be with them over there, I should be like, okay, I feel empowered. I feel that I'm powerful because I can fight in this environment. But well, I had that epiphany years ago, and I felt embarrassed. I really feel other way around. So that's why I was saying when I was evolving during my career, I was not aware of the barriers that we women are encountering because you feel proud of being over there. But then I don't know if it is a question of age or if it is a question of society and how we have evolved culturally in all this time. But now I feel embarrassed and it's cool because my fight is no longer to be there with men. My fight is to make other women be there with men.
Okay, yes. I understand. And yeah, I wanted to say, if feel free to speak, and if you want to, if you're not waiting that I tell you, you can speak. So and you, Emilie, do you feel this kind of barrier as woman?
I would say, well, first I would say that yeah, I encountered some barriers, but I also had some opportunities because I was a woman and there were not a lot. So just to start that it also brings opportunities, but of course it brings some barriers. And for me, I didn't experience any direct discrimination, but I would say that it's more unconscious. As an example, finding afterwards that you you've been paid less than your male colleagues, but not because they were thinking she deserves less, but because maybe your male colleagues negotiate their salaries more aggressively. So because you don't complain, they assume you are happy with it.
Yes.
Or finding, when you come back from maternity leave, that there has been a reorganization. You're not in the strong position, not because they thought she doesn't deserve it, but because you were not here to fight for it. So they just assume you would be happy when you would come back. So it's more those unconscious things, which I think are not actually just on the male side. I also have to say that sometimes when I met people where there were like a male and a female, depending on the attitude, you assume the male is the boss, which I experienced on both sides. So I have to say, it's really something that we have all to be trained about the unconscious bias, I would say.
Yes, it's a point that I have on my note, because I wanted to ask you, but we will talk about it later. For you, the reason of this situation, and yes, there is a lot of explanation. But if I understand, you feel you felt some barriers, but it was not a real barrier. You still
no, it was not what we call a discrimination. I was fortunate enough not to experience that.
No, but I think that, I don't know if it is the case of everyone in the table, but I have experienced the same unconscious bias when they believe that you are the secretary because you are the woman.
Yeah.
Or some entrepreneurs that did not address you if there is another man on the on the room,
Yes,
and they
exactly.
tell them, they pitch to every other man.
Yeah.
So it's curious, because I think that everyone working in a professional environment, every woman, kind of all of them, we have experienced the same. Yes. And it's not very, it's subtle. It's not like, it's not hard. You cannot feel offended. But it's subtle.
Sometimes
but
it's
it
just
happens.
like subtle, like they don't look at you. They only speak to the men. And yes, I think it happened to a lot of women. And you, Maëva, do you have some experience?
I agree with this. With this, I didn't feel barriers, but rather breaks. I think I quickly understood that it wasn't not impossible to have a real career, have a real a position with responsibilities, but I understood that it would be more complicated for me than for a man. I have to prove myself much more than if I were a man. So it can be a real strength, I think, in our career.
Yes, totally.
And do you? We start to talk a little bit about that, but I wanted to talk about the positive discrimination, because I know it's a hot topic. It's almost political as a topic, but positive discrimination, for those who don't know what is it, in our context is a human resources policy. Who want to be in favor to certain population and almost the often discriminated segment of the population, for example, women. So do you have any opinion about that? For you, is it something really important that we have to implement, or it's less important because for some people, merit principle is more important, that you have to deserve what you have, and it's not because you are a woman that you obtain this kind of thing. So I wanted to have your opinion, and if you don't want to share it, it's okay also. Say everything you want. If you want to start, Emilie, maybe?
Well, I enjoy this debate, the positive discrimination, and especially with women, because if I discuss it with a man, I feel nervous straight away, whatever it says, because you cannot understand. So, because, I mean, I've been told by some senior management guy that, we are against positive discrimination because women should deserve their title. And I believed in that when I was young, but after 20 years of career and seeing, extremely competent people being promoted, but sometimes average, or even you wonder how they end up there. And it's not only in your career. I mean, you read the press, you see the stories of enterprises, and you think, okay, so why do we have to, to prove ourselves 10 times harder than the men? There's something a bit biased here. So I'm really in favor of quota as a temporary measure, so we reach a reasonable level of equality. In France, there has been a law to impose a certain percentage of women in board positions, and it's really striking. I mean, when you look at the stats, in 2010, there were like 10% of board members that were women in CAC 40 enterprises, and now it's 45%. So it works. As far as I know, the CAC 40 hasn't decreased because all of a sudden it was persons who didn't deserve to being promoted, being in their position. So but really welcome other opinions.
I'm totally in favor of positive discrimination because of of the reasons exposed. So if you want to make a change, you really have to act with this kind of measures, because if not, well, I encourage any girl that is listening to us, if they work in a large organization, a large corporation, maybe such as Telefonica, for example, if you look at the organization chart of the company, you can find a lot of departments that are women-dominated, so with more women working on them. But if you look at them and then you try to extract the ratio of male boss and women boss, you will find that, well, you really have to pick the male if you want to have a male managed department. So and this is something that, how is it happening? If you have a marketing department with 10 ladies and 1 man, why is the man the boss? So it's really like counterintuitive. So it's not a question that we are not entering the workforce and it's more male than women. Is that even in areas that are populated by women, it is the case that in the leading positions, it is a male. So this is something that is not really working properly here. And I'm totally certain that that it will change in its own pace. So I know for sure that if we let things go, they will change, but maybe it will take like 100 years. If we think on how it's changing. So yes, positive discrimination is a must. If you really want things to happen, not in 100 years, but in a time frame that my daughter will be able to enjoy in a different environment. So that's why I'm for positive discrimination, for sure.
And I remember when we talked, I really like the image that you take about the running competition. It's discriminative position. It's like we are women always run with 3 kilometers back from 3 kilometers. So discriminative position is a way to I don't have the word in English, but to push the woman to take back this delay. And I really like this image.
I totally agree. I think positive discrimination is now the only way to restore a kind of fairness. Men have advantages. They have to become aware of it. And positive discrimination is a way to restore balance between men and women. But it's really important that these measures are temporary. I think.
Okay. And did you already beneficiate of, I don't know if my word is good, but do you think that in your, you said yes, I think, but in your background, in your professional career, did you feel that you have beneficiate of this positive discrimination? For example, having this position because of quota, or example like that? Did you happen to you? Or no, maybe not. I'm just thinking about that.
Well, I'm sure that in some
way,
in my career, we and well, you can see how environment has changed along the years. So this is something that we have been talking for 20 years, but the real change is happening. It's quite recent.
5 years.
5 years when you really see the measurement in the companies of the leading roles to see the quotas, measuring the gender gap, and when you start measuring things, you start managing things. So this is something that is happening. So for example, here in Telefonica, it is compulsory for leading roles that you at least have one woman in the three in the terna final, in the final in the final decision making, in the three ones that you have to decide, and this is making a change for sure. And when you start changing the leading roles, you start establishing informal networks. So that it's, because I don't think that it's like when I was saying that the marketing leader should not be a man because it's only women that are over there. I don't think that this is something that it's made in bad faith. It is something that is made by networks. I totally believe in the power of networking. And when you start putting women inside leading roles, you start working other networks. Other ways of doing businesses. So this is something that it will happen. They will push other women. They will pull from other women to go up. So I'm totally certain. I have had mentors, women mentors inside the organization. I have had a lot of friends that have helped me. For sure. So I'm sure that I have benefited in some. I don't know if I was put in a terna just for being a woman. I don't know because I didn't change my position for 10 years. So I'm not certain about that. But yeah, I'm sure that this is happening. Yeah.
And by the way, I mean, coming back to the positive discrimination, I think it's also important for the principle of equality, but also for the companies themselves. Because as Paloma was saying, as soon as you start to have more women in the top positions, you have more women at all positions, and at the end of the day, it increases diversity. So, I mean, lots of studies have proven that it's very beneficial for a company to have different spirits at forces to work on topics, on the day-to-day topics or the strategic decisions. So
yes, different opinion, different point of view. Yes.
And actually it applies to other diversities as well.
Okay.
But yeah, to come back to your question, yes, I think I benefited from the new environment. I cannot say that I've been recruited just because of quota, I hope. But yeah, I think it helps, especially those days. When you think about your future, you think, I have some opportunities because, they will look twice at my CV, hopefully.
Okay. And I'm just thinking, do you feel because you are more I don't want to say old, but I don't adult. You are more adult than us. And do you feel an evolution since you start your career and between the current position, the current situation? You feel an evolution of mind of
well, let me just going back to the beginning of my career and comparing it to now, and to give you just an example on that. That is it's quite hard. When I started working in Microsoft in the events department. There was a fair that was run in Spain at that area that was very, very famous. That was the CIMO. And it was like the technological fair, and it attracted a lot of talent, and it was huge. All the IFEMA, the fair, all the IFEMA was full with people over there. And well, they were bringing prostitutes. So that was the way also to make business. So some of the promoters of the stands, I'm not telling about Microsoft, not for sure. No, but this was something that was happening at that time a lot. That they were prostitutes in the events because the male were the ones that were deciding. And well, it has changed a lot along the years. So it's no longer the case that in a technological fair you use prostitutes. Thank God, things has changed. And no, but this is something that I suffer in my career. So it was male-dominated area, male making decisions, and in fairs you could see prostitutes because it was the way of making businesses. And this is something that I have experienced, and it was not, I'm not that old. I'm not that old.
Okay, sorry.
So it's there, yes, it has evolved.
Okay, and you also, you feel,
for sure,
you feel a real difference, yes.
Yeah, real difference in attitude and also in rules. Because the gender gap salary, as an example, now is being monitored in most companies. So you cannot have what I was saying at the beginning. You cannot have in the same department just because some people negotiate in a more aggressive way. being raised more quickly. So, or the attitude towards women, or even how to consider their request for family time, which is another topic, is being considered completely differently now. So yeah, it's changing for good. But it has accelerated, I would say, in the last years.
Yeah.
Okay, like 8 years.
I would say so. And as far as I can see, and that is a positive point, I can see that there is a lot of pressure coming from financial investors.
Okay.
And it's like top to bottom pressure. And in our turn, when we invest in companies, we have those questionnaires about equalities. So it really feeds up to the basis.
About new regulations that are implemented.
It's not official regulation, but it's ESG criteria that are that become instrumental. And our investors ask for those data that we feed back to our investee companies. So they have to really monitor situation and be much more careful with this topic. So
yes, it's true. And
so that helps.
At level of society, like everyone is really more. I think it's general that everybody start to be really interested in this kind of topic. So people are more attentive. Oh, this company try to make a social policy or environmental policy. So it's topic really important for for young people even more. I think.
At Edificio, it's a really important subject. I work on environmental, social, and governance issues. Thanks to this role, I can analyze investment opportunities. I can monitor their evolution and offer concrete evolution to companies in which we invest. And on the other hand, we can see that it's criteria that are very important for investors. We can't do without these criteria, no, I think. And it's a way to have a real impact in the society.
That's definitely a positive aspect of finance, really. The pressure coming from those criteria.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to ask you another question. If you, as a woman, we have a family life and we can give birth, so it has a big impact in our life. Do you think it will be a problem, or it was a problem? Do you manage to deal with your personal and your family life and your work life? Do you feel that you had to make some sacrifice, or do you never have this feeling? I want to have your opinion about that. If you maybe Maëva, if you want to start for once.
I think I didn't really experience difficulties to combine my private life and professional life. But quickly I realized that the fact of being a woman in the context of salaried job could be perceived in a negative way. For example, and even if it's prohibited by law, during job interviews, I have been asked if I wanted to have children. So it's a real discrimination, I think.
Yeah. For sure.
Okay.
Well, I think in Spain, it's kind of changing. Now we have make equal the paternity leaves for women and men. So things are moving. And well, the thing is that we had another panelist today, Rocío, that couldn't make it because he had to take care of her child that had a personal at school. So, and this is something, I'm not saying that this is the case of Rocío for sure, but this is something that is quite normal, that we are the ones that get called by the school in case the children have any problem, and we have to be like the caregiver. So it's like the role that we have in society, and this is something that is assumed, the kind of workload that you have to have if you have a family. I have a very supportive husband, but in any case, sometimes the workload is not shared that equally because and it's not for him, it's for the rest of the environment because they call me.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is something that, well, and it's not, but I don't think that I have been discriminated in my career.
Okay.
Because I'm a mom. No,
Okay.
but did you feel when you were a mom? Did you feel like the doubts and the well, what's going to happen? In fact, it didn't happen, and if there is a social, responsible environment, it should not happen.
Okay. And
I think, I mean, again, things are improving a lot lately. I found that, yeah, at the beginning of when I started a family, it was challenging just because of the new lifestyle you have and combining long hours. I mean, you cannot have long hours anymore. So it's really finding a new balance, and I found it quite challenging. But I don't know if it's because society has changed or of the age of my children, let's say. Now I find it easier. It's true that, as an example, when I arrived in Spain, my first job interview for a big Spanish company, they told me, we prefer to warn you, we work long hours. And I say, okay, but if I jump the 2-hour lunch break, can I go back home, take care of my family, and then reconnect when they are in bed? And he told me that would be a problem for the team spirit. So, and that was 5 years ago. But now I know that this company has changed the rules. I know people working there. So, and it's much more accepted. And since COVID-19, even more, because remote working is widely accepted. So I think it's easier. And also the sort of rules that Spain has implemented with paternity leave changes a lot the balance and the view of the management at parents, basically.
Yes, I agree.
It's very important.
It's more a global question of family organization and the perception of role of woman and of a mom and a dad in a family. Okay. And I wanted to come back to this question of reasons of why women are less represented. I read some studies, and in general, there is 2 categories of reasons. I think the internal causes, like I read a lot of examples that, for example, women censor themselves almost in a financial world, because finance is seen as a shark environment with a short-termist vision, and women personality are more seen as a care, as a sweet people, and not shark, the contrary. So first of all, this internal reason of why women are less represented because of themselves, of their personality, the censor. And the external reasons, for example, the education of women, the way we educate women, women are conditioned to be attracted to certain type of work, to be more to be more sweet, to be less, to impose less themselves. Or also, I read studies who talk about machismo logic, which is implemented in some company. There is men who don't want that women have some lead position. So I wanted to know if you have an opinion about that. If you don't have, it's okay, because it's a hard topic. There is a lot of study about that. But if you have some, I don't know, some feelings, some ideas, some opinion about this question, I would love to hear you. If you want to, nobody wants to start.
Well, I will break the ice, but I think it's impossible to just assign one cause. No. I think it's multifactorial. Yeah, it's a mix of things, and well, it has also a lot to do with networking, with the informal networks that you, because, for example, when we have been working a lot, talking about investment and female entrepreneurs. So this is one of our focus of studies, and also how we try to act over there, trying to analyze why there are so little, so little women entrepreneurs in the ecosystem. So, well, when you are talking about technology and you are talking about risk, sometimes the amount of women that you have is not that much, so that you can make a huge percentage over there. It's a question of training. When we are talking about women in entrepreneurship, but it's also a question that they get less invested. It is harder for them to get investment, because in the investment funds, most of the people that are in leading positions are male. So you have this internal networking that works financing other pals, people that work with them, that go to the golf, that go to bars together, to football together. So this networking activity makes it harder for women to enter. And this is something that is also happening in your professional career, if you think about that. That's why I believe in networking. I also believe that this is something, well, when I talk to my daughter and I talk to my son, I have one little daughter and one little son, you try to treat them equally, and we will try to make them believe that they can speak up. And it's curious how Carmen, my daughter, notes, and she's just 7, when there are very few women in the room. For example, we were talking about the NASA mission last week, that there was like 4 astronauts. One of them was a lady, and we were signaling to Carmen, okay, there's one lady. Why one? There should be at least 2. And and this is something, and I'm encouraging that into my little child so that she can speak up when she grows up. But this is something that the social environment that we have, well, we should all try to change it. But I cannot assign just one factor to the thing that in professional career.
And I think you're right that networking seems to be really important, and also education, like trying to give the same opportunity and the same chance to everybody.
In terms of attitudes and characteristic of your personality, it's true that during a lot of years you hear that you should be more assertive. Usually they tell you to be more like male, to have more male characteristics. I think it's a mix of how you are educated, but also maybe something that shouldn't change. That it's just the way people look at you that should change. And one of those women speaking at the conference we had while I was at Bouygues, she said, it's a quote. I'm not sure if it's of Oscar Wilde. We should check, but it's like, be yourself and be yourself with your own characteristics, because all the other roles are already taken. And because she was like a top manager, I remember it. And now when I feel like I'm, a bit maybe too shy or not assertive enough, I also think, it's my own style. Maybe it will take a few months more, but ultimately people will recognize you. It's finding this mix in terms of personality characteristics.
Okay. Okay. So for you, the main reason, as we said, is a lot of reason, but it's internal reason. Women.
It's a large topic.
Okay.
I don't know if it's is it education or is it a characteristic of women? I cannot.
No, we won't find the solution now. It's impossible. But and do you have an opinion about that?
I think it's a real combination of
all of this.
Yes, at my level, I used to work in renewable energies area. It's a real masculine area, and since the beginning, I used to think that I have to prove what I can bring to the companies. To be listened, I really think I have to speak the same language as the men around me, and I have to do it really perfectly. And I think it's an internal reason.
Okay. I remember you, and I found it really interesting when we talk about this topic, Maëva. You told me that a way to impose yourself was to manage perfectly the vocabulary, the technical vocabulary of energy, about this topic in renewable energy.
I think it's a way to feel more legitimate, because I think that we as a woman, I feel that I do not have the right to make mistakes, or really less than men.
Oh, that's very hard. That's very hard.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to ask you a last question, which is really... I wanted to end this roundtable with a positive note, because for me the best goal, like the ultimate goal of this roundtable, is just to show women which are, I think, inspiring, because for me, a way to change the situation is to show that we are women, but we succeed in our professional career. So I wanted to give a positive note at this round table. And I wanted to ask you, if you had a magic wand, if everything were possible, how did you imagine the finance world of tomorrow? Would you change a lot of things? Would you imagine a lot of women? You told that, I think it's interesting point that you told that we don't have to be as men. We can be women with our sensibility, with a different point of view, and things will be work. Also, we will have success. So I wanted to know what is your vision of finance, of the future of finance as a woman and for women. I know it's also a big question and a hard topic, but if you have some idea, some opinion.
Well, yeah, as I mentioned, I already see a lot of positive aspects of finance, and really linked to the ESG criteria. Even if today it can be, sometimes it's just marketing tools, but at the end of the day, when you have those criteria, it's a guideline that will feed from top to bottom, as I mentioned. So for me, really, the ideal finance world, and if I had a magic wand, that's what I would do, would be to have like finance doing what is its main purpose, which is financing a better society and, of course, a greener environment. I mean, I know it sounds like easy assertion, but if you think about it, that's what is needed today. What do you need to improve things? You need like financing and targeted at the right purpose. So for me, I would put the interest of the investors being truly oriented towards that ESG, or even more strongly, positive impact on the society and planet.
Well, building on top of that, building on that, I would say that what we are shaping, when you are working in investment, you are shaping the future. And the future is technological. From my point of view, we have a lot of challenges to be solved, such as climate change, such as the different ESGs and the goals that we have. And I believe that finance is shaping that future. And when shaping that future, you cannot leave out 50% of the world. I would say that we need more women in investment. We need more women making decisions on the things, how they will be tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah. So moreover, you think that finance world can be a motor for the rest of activity to be more green or more inclusive?
Yeah, I believe that that finance world is the world that is shaping the future, deciding where to invest, deciding where to allocate the resources. So yeah, for sure, it's we need that it is focused on ESG and that it takes into consideration 50% of the population on their decisions. Yeah.
Okay.
I totally agree. I think that we have to change our perception of the world of finance. In the past, we can see that finance accompanied societal changes, and it can be the way to do it now for women, I think.
Okay. And do you think that women, with their personality and their point of view and their education, may have a new kind of may lead a new kind of management, or for you it's not a matter of sex, it's just a matter of how we are? Do you? I don't know if my question is clear, but.
No, your question is clear. The
okay,
answer is complicated.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, I believe that diversity is proven to be a better solution for companies. So companies with diverse boards are better in performance than companies with no diverse. And where we are talking about just one axis in the diversity world, but diverse boards and diverse workforce leads to better companies. So for sure, and I believe that women should be allowed to behave as they want, not just with a role of women inside organizations. I don't know. I believe that the range of management roles in men is wider than the ones that you are allowed when you are a woman. And that's another point. But in any case, I believe in diversity as a power, superpower for organizations.
Yes.
No, I like this formulation. Yeah, I wouldn't say that a woman manager will be better than a man, but diversity, a diverse management will be better than one type of management.
I think it's a perfect end word, really. So I wanted to thank you, everyone, a lot for this moment and for sharing your experience and give your opinion. It was really, really rich, and I hope we will make some more events like that in the future. So thank you a lot, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ça s'est bien passé.